Master of the ceremony, Shubham, distinguished Professor KCCILHE, Professor Bhavna Agarwal ji, respected Deepak Gupta ji, Preeti Gupta ji, a pleasure listening to Anand ji, Kamlesh ji, distinguished faculty, staff members, parents, teachers, audiovisual team, performers who gave a brilliant presentation, batch of seniors, and the class of 2025. A heartiest congratulations and a very warm welcome on behalf of KCC and my personal self to all of you. Just to start with giving you a perspective, अभी बात हो रही थी कि आईना झूठ बोलता ही नहीं. दो तीन जगह से बात आई तो मुझे एक शेर याद आ गया. हम लोग लखनऊ के रहने वाले हैं. मुझे एक शेर याद आ गया कि आईने का झूठ अपनी आंखों से देख रहा हूं मैं. आईने का झूठ अपनी आंखों से देख रहा हूं मैं. चेहरा तो सजा हुआ है, अभी को ढूंढ रहा हूं. चेहरा तो सजा हुआ है, अभी को ढूंढ रहा हूं. When Professor Bhavna called me and said that I want you to come and talk to the incoming batch, it took me back to my graduation days. And I thought, if I was there today, if I was sitting in this crowd here today, what is it that I would like to hear? वो क्या है जो मुझको आज कोई कह देता और मैं सीख लेता? वैसे तो कोई किसी के कहने से सीखता नहीं है. शायद मैंने भी नहीं सीखा होगा, मेरे पेरेंट्स ने, टीचर्स ने जरूर सिखाया होगा, लेकिन एटलीस्ट कानों तक पे पड़ जाता. ऐसा क्या है जो कि शायद कहीं ना कहीं किसी मौके पे, किसी मकाम पे, किसी पहलू पे जब आप निर्णय ले रहे हो, जब आपको सही और गलत का अंतर करना हो जीवन में, when you're called upon to decide between and choose between what is your principle and what is expedient at that moment, what would I have chosen? What would I have wanted to hear? And then I realized that it is far too important. भाषण तो हम लोग रोज ही देते हैं और रोज कई सारे देते हैं, लेकिन मुझे लगा शायद आज जो कहने के लिए मुझे बुलाया गया है वो इतना महत्वपूर्ण है कि I picked up a pen and paper and I started writing. And by the time when I ended up, and why I'm sharing this with you, I'm sharing this with you only just to message across कि जो काम हम रोज करते हैं, दिन में 2-4 बार करते हैं, उसके लिए भी अगर आप किसी इंपॉर्टेंट जगह जा रहे हैं तो जरूर प्रिपेयर करके जाइए. Be prepared. The best speeches in this world are the ones that have been rehearsed the most. So prepare for that. And I picked up a pen and paper and I started writing. And when I finished up writing, it was so jumbled कि मुझे खुद ही समझ में आ रहा था मैंने क्या लिखा है. So last night I sat up until almost 1:30 a.m. and I typed it out on my computer. And today there's some things that I really want to say to you. And this comes from my heart. I mean every single word of it. These are not just exhortations for you. ये एक और भाषण नहीं है मेरे लिए जो हम लोग रोज देते रहते हैं. बहुत जिम्मेदारी के साथ मुझे लगता है भावना जी ने बुलाया है, आपकी इंस्टीट्यूट ने बुलाया है, और मैं चाहता हूं कि जिम्मेदारी पे खरा उतरूं. So with these words, let me just say what I would have liked to hear when I was here many years ago. So every great river is born with a trickle. Any river you can think of in the world, it's always born of a trickle. At its source, it seems fragile, it seems weak. It seems that, not much will come out of it. Even, I don't know if you've been to Gomukh, or you go see Gomti ka Udgam or Yamuna ji ka Udgam, or where Nile is born. It starts with a very small little trickle, right? But then, as it flows, it gathers stream. Multiple streams keep joining. You watch Ganga coming down from Gomukh. कहीं लखनंदा मिलती है, कहीं भागीरथी मिलती हैं, and Ganga just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and wider, affecting more and more lives every day. It deepens, it carves, and eventually it shapes the land itself. That's how a small trickle of water becomes a huge river. Today, each of you is that source. Each of you is that trickle. Each of you has that potential. Each of you has that promise. You have to choose. You have to decide. And look around. People sitting next to you. These are the people who will become friends. These are the people who will become your comrades. These are the people you will have most interesting debates with in your lifetimes. These are the people with whom you will see dreams. Maybe you'll fight as well at times. Maybe you'll have your disagreements as well. And then there are professors here sitting, which I hope and I pray and I charge you with the responsibility today that you please push these students hard. Push them into learning, push them into hard work. Ask more of them. Set challenging assignments. Give them strict deadlines. Because they need to train for life. And life is not easy. Life will present you with your challenges. Life will present you with your share of problems. And then you really got to struggle there. But you need to give it your best shot. And I hope that your teachers and professors will. You could have earned a degree anywhere. And many people have done great jobs across the world without earning degrees. If you look at certain examples, especially from the Silicon Valley, you would almost think a degree to karni nahi chahiye, degree karne wale kuch karte nahi jeevan mein. But that's not true. Because what we see in media, in newspapers, is Anandji only talks about that one guy who becomes a unicorn, who becomes a $1 billion industry. He doesn't tell you about 100,000 people who fail behind him. 5% is the success rate of new businesses in the first year. And 5% of that 5% in the first 3 years. And another 5% of that number in the next 3 years. That's a very, very minuscule number. Because believe you me, nothing good will come to you for free. Nothing good, nothing worth the while will come to you easy. You have to earn. There's no free lunch. Something that my dad taught me very early in life is there's no free lunch in life. You've got to pay. Somebody's got to pay for that. Somebody's got to live for that. And many times, somebody's got to die for that. The country that we preserve, the society that we build, the families that we hold dear is something that many of us are willing to even die for. That's the price that you'll have to pay. And I hope that these formative years of your life, Kamlesh used the word transformative and Anand used the word formative. I'm drawing on both those words. These years of your life will shape what you will become, what you will achieve, and at the same time, what you will not achieve, what you will not become. There are 5 things that I want to tell you. And I've lived 3 lives in my career, in my life so far. 3 roles is what I've played. I've worked for a top American consulting company, huge organization, probably the largest in the world today. On the strategy, leadership, strategy and innovation consulting side. I've taught at IIM Ahmedabad, I've taught at London School, at MIT Sloan School, Media Labs, multiple places. And we have, that's the role that I've played as an academic. And I've been a legislator, legislated policy, understand the process of legislation, sat in cabinet meetings in Uttar Pradesh, and decided on issues that actually affect millions of lives. We've allocated budgets to the tunes of 15 lakh crores a year, per year. I've ran ministries which have thousands of crores of budgets. These 3 roles inform all that I'm going to say to you today, all that I'm going to tell you today, right? What's the first lesson I would like to give you? The first lesson is choose your true north. And I'm sure everybody that you meet, your parents, your professors, your teachers, your friends, your directors, your media, the editorials that you read, if you read, they will all tell you one thing: find your true north. What is my true north? Was it a good thing to do a cushy consulting job, getting paid, working in New York and getting paid in hundreds and thousands of dollars? Was that a good career? It was. At the age of 20, 21, it's a fantastic job you can do. But then you see, you chuck all of that and you say, you know what, let's get into academics, because I think my real calling is learning, is knowledge. I want to do a PhD. And that's what you enter into that. And then you have a nice job, comfortable, living on campus at Ahmedabad. It's a beautiful campus, one of the most prestigious institutions in this country you can do for. And then you say, my wife was also a professor there. And you say that, you know what, I think this is good, it's exciting, but I want to do more and I want to get into politics now. So you resign that and you get into politics and you make yourself vulnerable. That's one lesson I want to give you. One good test for me, which has worked, I'm not sure whether it will work for you as well or not, but one good test that's worked for me is making yourself vulnerable again. Where you're forced to learn, where you're forced to acquire a new skill, where you're forced to talk to a different set of people that you're comfortable with talking to. You're happy talking to Professor Ahmad San was my headmaster. I have many Nobel laureates in economics, so on and so forth, and you're comfortable talking to them. And then you leave that world and you start going to a rickshaw wala and say, "Bhaiya, vote zarur de dena." How easy is that switch? No, it's not. Extremely difficult switch. Right? But make yourself vulnerable. When you make yourself vulnerable, backed with a fire, with a desire that I want to do it, I want to achieve it. Let me try, let me give it my best shot. Nobody's guaranteed success in life. Ram and Krishna had a very difficult life. But you try for some things. And you might fail, doesn't matter. We'll try the next one and the next one. हमें देखिए हम तो चुनाव में जाते हैं, हारते रहते हैं. सरकारें नहीं बनती, but still we keep going at it. Maybe the next one. Maybe it will happen the next time. Maybe it will happen the next time. Maybe it will happen the next time. Maybe the next one is mine. So find your true north. Make yourself vulnerable. And one thing else, when you pass out from here, people will ask you about your success. Everybody wants to be successful. I want to be successful. But what is success? How do you define success? People will ask you what grades you got. What marks did you get? What medals did you get at the school, at the university? What awards did you win? Which papers did you publish? Finally, which job did you get? What salaries did you get? Right? And that is all a part of success. But what I want to tell you here, ladies and gentlemen, today, boys and girls, is that success, there's something beyond success. And I call, for myself, it's a classic debate between success and significance. I always, and why is that different? Success is for me, significance is for others. So what I want you to think about is, yes, I want to be successful for myself, but more than that, I want to be significant for others, because that is what will give meaning to life. That is what will, and that comes not by asking the question, what do I want? You flip the question, and what question is that you want to ask? The question you want to ask is not what do I want, but what can I contribute? What can I give? And you will only give what you have. My dad is fond of saying कि बेटा अगर आप 2 लोगों को अपना परिवार मानोगे तो ईश्वर 2 की ताकत देगा. 20 को परिवार मानोगे तो ईश्वर 20 की ताकत देगा, और अगर आप 20 करोड़ लोगों को अपना परिवार मानोगे तो हो सकता है ईश्वर 20 करोड़ की ताकत दे. ये तो हमारे आपके ऊपर है कि हम कितने बड़े ख्वाब देख रहे हैं, कितने बड़े स्वप्न बुन रहे हैं और ये सोचते हैं कि हम ये कर सकते हैं. So find your true north, and between success and significance, I would say choose significance. Be significant to what you're doing. So that not just that you've got that multi-million-dollar package, but when you leave, people feel कि कुछ चला गया, कुछ खो गया. And I've had colleagues in that segment, in academia, in politics, people who have been fantastic, brilliant speakers, and they've contributed, they've had their success, but it was fleeting. Versus somebody who's created, who's trained their juniors, who's mentored people in the corporate sector, in the academic sector, somebody who's guided you on a path. Do I still remember my million dollar package, or some success or a consulting project more, or my professor who taught me the difference between utility and marginal utility at Cambridge? I remember him more. Any day I'll take him over any other job, any other salary, any other recognition. So choose to be significant over choosing to be successful. That's something that I'd like to leave with you today. Another thing is, choose your lens carefully. What is education? Education is not only knowing what you do not know. Education is also learning to behave in a manner in which you do not behave. In this institute, the HLE, there are multiple programs sitting today: business, management, commerce, journalism, law, media studies. And what does education give you? Education gives you the lens for noticing something. It's a lens for making sense. So there's a lovely story by David Wallace. I would urge you to go and read that, where there were two young fish who were born, and they were swimming in the ocean one day. Think a scene like the Nemo, right? Everybody's probably watched the Nemo. So think about the Nemo, and there are two young fish born and swimming there, and they see a wise old fish on the reef. And when they swim across that part of the reef, the old fish turns to them and asks them, "How's the water today?" And these two young fish, they look at each other puzzled, and they're like, "What is water? What is water?" And they go back home and they ask their mom, "Mom, we met an old fish today and he said, 'What is water?'" And obviously, she must have explained, "Why do I tell you this story today? Because many times, as the fish don't realize that they swim in water, we don't realize that we swim in our own biases. We swim every day in our own ecosystems. We swim every day in our own concept of relationships. We swim every day in what we perceive to be right and wrong, what I will do and what I will not do, what I'll try and what I will not try, what I'll be and what I will not be, what I can be and what I cannot be." And remember, all of this is assumptions. They weigh heavily on us. They determine the meaning that we drive out of life, but they are not what we are. It's just the water. And can we change the water? Absolutely. You can change the lens through which you make meaning. And that's something that I'd like you to do today. Choose your lenses very carefully. Be aware of the assumptions that you're making about life. Another thing that I want to leave with you today is work on the questions. What I've realized in politics and academia, in strategy consulting, when I worked for my first consulting assignment, let me tell you, so this was a multi-billion dollar CEO sitting in a company in KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And we walk into him, a huge banking empire. And we said, we first consulting assignment, all dressed up, decked up, and feeling very confident from top schools in the world. And you go and says, "We are here, tell us your problem." And he looked at us and he laughed. We were two of us from the consulting company. And he said, "You know what? I don't know the problem. If I knew the problem, I wouldn't need you." What I realized, the bigger challenge, the bigger contribution, the more difficult thing to do in life is to ask the right questions, is to frame the right questions, is to challenge a set of assumptions and what you take for granted around those questions that you're raising. Think about those. And if once you get your questions right, it will define your pathway towards a solution. When you go for a PhD, when I went for a PhD at Cambridge and MIT, the first entire year is spent on finding the question. They expect you no less than 12 to 15, 16 months to find a question that will extend the boundaries of human knowledge, which will then entitle you to do a PhD, to get granted a PhD or a doctorate from one of these schools and universities in the world. Are you extending the body of knowledge? And for almost 1.5 years, you're looking, my first year report came at almost 16, 17 months. And that was when my supervisor and we together stand in front of external people and say, this is the question we think we are going to work for the next 3 years to 4 years, find an answer to that question. If we are able to find it, we will walk out of Cambridge and MIT with a PhD degree. Otherwise, you spend 5-6 years of your life and you walk out with nothing. And at the end of the 16-17 months after you've paid, or your scholarship has paid them about, $60, $70, $80,000, you walk out with nothing, absolutely nothing, if you cannot convince them that you've raised the right questions. You're just sent back, nothing, no diploma, no degree, no recognition of those 15-16 months of your life that you spend in England or in the US, and you're sent back with nothing. That is the importance of finding the right questions. Are we framing the questions right? If you are, that's the trick to the answer. We've heard a lot of discussion about, artificial intelligence and change, and how technology is disrupting the world the way we know it. And that's absolutely true. There's absolutely no two hoots about that. But when you walk out, when you step out, and there's a lovely concept in management literature which we call VUCA. I'm sure your professors will tell you about it. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Right? The world is full of VUCA today. Is it rising? Absolutely. On all axes you can compare. In terms of volatility, in terms of uncertainty, in terms of complexity, ambiguity, all those of them are rising. But one thing I can tell you from historical trend analysis, if you look at the historical development of technology over the last 100 years, one thing is absolutely clear, that technology has produced far more jobs than it has ever disrupted. Will there be jobs? Absolutely. But will it be for my and yours taking? That depends on myself and yourself. The opportunity will be bigger. But I can challenge you, you can, record this if you want. There will be more billion-dollar companies created at a faster speed that Anandji will cover, and Kamleshji will probably create one day. And then I'll come in and legislate and regulate both of you. But that in a much shorter period of time, with new technological platforms getting created. My wish, my desire today is that one of those companies that Anandji covers is created by one of the students sitting here in the group today. That'll be one of the happiest days of our lives. Then we can also come back and say that, look, he was a student here when I was speaking on the inducement speech that Bhavnaji had invited me for. And that'll be a moment of pride. So don't worry about that. That is the arena, that's the environment, that's the context. Can I cry hoarse about the politics that I'm faced with today? No. Can I cry hoarse about the economic models that people have done earlier before I got into doing economics? No. Can you complain about strategy consulting, what McKinsey is doing, what BCG is doing, because you are not working for them anymore? No. That's our environment. That's the arena that I and you have been given. Will we choose the arena? No. Will we create the arena? Will we shape the arena? Will we carve the arena? Will we win the arena? Absolutely. No doubt about that. I will, and so will you. We will win this thing. There's no doubt about that. But don't run away from it. Don't be scared. The world has always been like that. I was reading an article, if I remember the name correctly, by Sri Sir Chandulal, who was an ICS officer in 1905. When he wrote, he said the service of IAS is no longer worth doing. जो करना था वो सब हो चुका है. अब कुछ बचा नहीं करने. And this is 1905, 120 years ago when he was writing that. Is there still things worth doing in this country, in this world? Absolutely. Will I and you do it? Absolutely, we will do it, and we'll do it together. We will create a beautiful India. We'll create beautiful lives together. And that's your responsibility. One more thing I like to say to you, and this is very, very important. This is how you will do it. Many times people feel enamored by the task कि सर कहना तो बहुत अच्छा लगता है, होगा कैसे, करेंगे कैसे? What is that trick? What is that formula? If somebody can give you a formula to being significant, and I'm not giving a formula for being successful. because I'm taking that for granted. You will be successful, no doubt on that. The boys and girls sitting here, you will create successful lives, enriched lives, prosperous lives, wealthy lives, materialistically meaningful and gainful lives for yourself and for the generations to come. I'm sure about that. But my question is, will you be significant? And the formula that I want to give you for that is the power of small acts. One step at a time. Because small actions, when compounded over time, can produce miracles. So in the first semester that you have here today, I want you to urge on concentrating on your studies, academics, working very hard, so on and so forth. But pick up one thing that appeals to your heart, do it every day and see how it stacks up over time. That one action every day will lead you to form a habit. And that habit will lead you to character, to happiness, to sustainability of that action. And that will give you a legacy. That's my formula if you want to live an uncommon life. Use your power of one. That's something very, very important. And lastly, it all comes together with character. And what is character? Character is not something that gets built up over dramatic gestures, over important moments in life. No, it gets built up with every decision that you take on every single day basis. Small little actions. What you choose to do, and most importantly, what you choose not to do. Character is something that will sustain when your talent has done its job. When your talent has given you that success, your legacy, your criticality, your sustainability, your significance is what you will get through your character. And finally, I'd like to close with 2 lines, which to me is like a philosophy of life. Ties in with my personal debate, my personal dilemmas between success and significance, and this disparity, this disconnect that I've tried to create over my life for myself. And I'm going to give you those 2 lines to you today. Hope you will remember them. And it's a philosophy of life. It will work everywhere. Whenever you face a touchstone in life, whenever you face a difficult decision, whenever you face a critical decision, whenever you face a decision between what to do and what not to do, use this as a benchmark. And those 2 lines are कि एक शजर आंगन में ऐसा भी लगाना चाहिए. शजर is पेड़, पौधा. एक शजर आंगन में ऐसा भी लगाना चाहिए जिसका साया दूसरे के घर में जाना चाहिए. जिसका साया दूसरे के घर में जाना चाहिए. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege. Thank you for receiving me. Thank you, Bhavna ji. Thank you, KCC. Good luck. All the best. Jai Hind.